Internet, it's finally here. Out of the box, USB 4 performance on Ryzen laptops. Hey Internet, Gordon Ung with PCWorld here. In front of me is the new Razer Blade 14. Obviously, it's a 14-inch laptop. The main claim to fame, though, is it has AMD's new Ryzen 9 7940HS processor. That is the world's first CPU, x86, that will be shipping with dedicated AI, of course, in Ryzen AI. Exciting stuff on that. That's going to come later. What I'm actually excited about here, though, is the lowly USB-C port. And that is because the Razer Blade 14, to me, this is the first Ryzen laptop out of the box with USB 4 support. Yes, I know you're saying, Gordon, I've seen you demonstrate USB 4 on Ryzen laptops months and months ago. Well, let me give you some bad news. I've never seen the final BIOS to enable that USB 4 support. I've tested USB support on other Ryzen laptops, but even on those, it was only beta BIOS support. This Razer Blade 14, though, comes out of the box with USB 4 working. In fact, I'm going to show it to you working by plugging in several Thunderbolt 3, several Thunderbolt 4, and even a USB 4 device. So to start off, let's use this lovely 10 gig Sonnet Solo 10G Ethernet adapter. I know you're wondering why this thing is so giant. It's because it is a 10 gig Ethernet adapter. And of course, to do that back then, the only way you could use it was with Thunderbolt 3. So this is Thunderbolt 3 using Ethernet. We're going to plug it into the left USB-C port on the Razer Blade 14. And we are going to watch the Ethernet show up because we have no Ethernet. I didn't hook up to wireless. It's going to actually have to download drivers for it, which I did earlier, but it does work. There we go. So as you can see, we have internet. We'll browse here. Let's just see. We're just going to prove to you that it works. Again, so we are basically browsing over Thunderbolt 3 using this 10 gig Ethernet adapter plugged into a gigabit Ethernet. So it works. Let's go ahead and disconnect it. By the way, Thunderbolt devices, you should eject before you pull them out. As you can see, we see our eject Solo 10G Thunderbolt 3 edition. Pull that out. That works. Next up, this is a SanDisk G drive. It is a pure Thunderbolt 3 drive. You have seen some combo drives that sort of cheat by using Thunderbolt 3 and USB support. This only works if you have Thunderbolt 3, basically made to work on Macs and Intel laptops that have Thunderbolt 3. You can see the Thunderbolt symbol on here. We're going to plug it into that left port again. We hear the click. It launches. You basically, because this is created for a Mac environment, you basically have to install software to be able to work on Macs with the HFS Plus that's included on there. But I am actually now seeing my Thunderbolt support. If I plug this into a standard USB-C port with only USB support, I get nothing. If I plug it into Thunderbolt, I get support. And if I plug into USB 4, it works as well. Let's go ahead and eject it. SanDisk Extreme Pro 2 terabyte. Eject. That works. Next up is this. This is the OWC Mini Stack STX. It basically has space for a hard drive. It also has a 2 terabyte M.2 drive mounted in here. It's shaped like a Mac because it's made to sit underneath a Mac. It's made for the Mac world again, but we are going to use this to plug into our USB 4 port using Thunderbolt. And we should be able to see the 2 terabyte drive in here. Yep, there we go. We're actually seeing the OWC setup to run on Windows as well as to run on Mac. And again, it's working because we have our Thunderbolt 3 device. And actually, this is Thunderbolt 4. I misspoke here. I want to point out this is actually Thunderbolt 4. I have verified it visually. You can see in our other video because it's actually using Intel's Goshen Ridge controller. That is Thunderbolt 4. But as you can see on USB 4 hardware on this Razer Blade with the Ryzen inside, it is working. Let's go ahead and eject that again, which is what you should do. Let's eject the mini stack. Boom. Click that out. What do you think? Let's do an eGPU next. Now, this is a little strange because this Razer Blade 14 has a GeForce RTX 4070 laptop GPU in here. By the way, it's about 140 TGP. We'll get into performance numbers on this laptop in another video. But for now, we want to see what happens when we plug in this Razer Core X. It is an older eGPU cabinet using Thunderbolt 3. As you can see, I plugged it in. The fans start to spin. This pulls up the Razer utility. As you can see, we can click on that and you can see the RTX 3080 that is in that Core X is now enabled. So you can run that in the onboard GeForce RTX 4070 laptop GPU. Basically not doing anything because you would want to switch to your external GPU. Obviously, you could put in a different GPU. We just threw in a 3080 because we had one sitting around. The final bonus thing we're going to do is actually use a real USB 4 device. Everything you see in here is basically Thunderbolt 3 or Thunderbolt 4. Thunderbolt 4, by the way, is supposedly the same as USB 4. This is actually the Zyke drive. This is a pre-production drive that's actually going to be sent back to them any day now, but I wanted to hold on to it just to run it a little bit longer. This is using an AS Media USB 4 controller. Unlike all the others that essentially use Intel Silicon, this is basically third-party USB 4 as well as USB 4. So we're going to take the Zyke drive. We're going to plug it into the left side of the unit. Let's work. Come on. Oh, there we go. The drive is there as expected. And let's actually run Crystal Disk Mark. So, you know, typically when we run some Thunderbolt 3 drives, they may be limited to like 3.23 gigs a second. We're expecting to see more. Zyke Drive actually claims the WD drive in here with this AS Media will hit about 3.8 gig reads. There we go, 3.8. Exactly what they are claiming, and it's actually what I've seen in other laptops that actually use faster Thunderbolt 4 or USB 4 controllers. And our write speeds actually, and it's interesting, I have seen this on some other Ryzen laptops where the write speeds are actually interestingly better than I've seen on Thunderbolt 3 enclosures. And we are seeing about 3.8 gig reads, 3.8 gig writes. So very, very good speeds out of the Zyke drive, running USB 4 to an actual USB 4 port. But again, the big news is I didn't have to install a beta BIOS. I basically turned on the laptop, plugged in my Thunderbolt 3, Thunderbolt 4, and USB 4 drives, my eGPU. It all worked. And hopefully this is the experience people will be seeing as we go forward on the AMD Ryzen timeline that we're on, instead of having to deal with finding a BIOS for it, updating it, and crossing your fingers and hoping we're working. So definitely the road to USB 4 being a reality on AMD platforms is finally here.